The motion be agreed to. Honourable Parakura Horomia.
Tika tu I runga tū nei e mihi kona kia koutou katoa e taikaha atu I konei I te wāhi nei o te whare miere. Kia koutou o motokaha, mo koutou ngā tūpakeke, me rātou e rere atu e kore e konei te tangi hoki tangaka. Engari kia koutou katoa, e tata ana e noha ana ki ngā roto I te wāhi rā o tō haukainga e mihi koa. E mohi atu tātou te roa haere o te kawanata nei, e rongo atu koutou ki ngā āhua, ngā pakanga I te tāhai hoki o te kāwana, ka raruraru pērā tonu. Te mahi poro tehe o etahi o ngā kaimahi o te kāwana, e pai ana e tai atu tātou I te rangi nei, hei whakatika tērā taumaha. Rea koutou mō tō kaha I te tai I konei, e Makino e mihi kauna. Tēnā koutou. E tika atu I te mihi atu ki ngā tūpakeke, te karaua, te ariki, e mihi kauna. Mai rāna, tōna kōrero e tū mai ngā wāhi o ngā marae, e kahanga te karaua I te kōrero atu mō te āhua o tōna iwi. Nō reira ia koutou katoa, tēnā koutou. Mr. Speaker, it's certainly an honour to be part of this great end today. It would never meet the heights of what it should be, but certainly I want to commend the Minister, Chris Finlayson, for his effort, past colleagues, Cullen Okero and Riri Nui, and Minister Turia, and certainly we join with them in bringing what's been a long journey, at times unnecessary, to fruition. It's important to congratulate and thank Jafi Afimate, like I said, the Karawa Te Ariki Morehu, Morris Meha, Neville Napier, and the Ngati Makino Heritage Trust, and as usual in naming people, leaving people out, all of those people involved. And at times it's a risky thing to name people because you forget some auntie or uncle. But I certainly want to mention queer like Hiraka, the Sykes, those ones who have been there from the beginning to now, and recognise that they have played a part in it and that they have shown the way forward. So kia ora koutou. To the officials, thanks again. At times it's an unthankful job, but certainly they fared well in this one. The record will tell us that the land deeds and practices of the agents of the Crown were certainly unwise, unjust and unfair. And we can wax lyrical about how bad they were. In this case, they were terrible. And that they removed rights and that they removed property is something that the ministers, past and present, have tried to put forward. It recognises through an apology to Ngati Makino for those historical acts, including the Battle of Kaukauroa. And that was huge land confiscation, and it was unfair. Because of course, Makino, at the time, there was differences between those who supported the kingitanga and those who stood neutral. And in their own sense, they chose to do their part, but certainly the British and the Crown didn't care where the parties were and did what they did. The transfer of the 8 sites of significance to the Ngati Makino Heritage Trust is critical, and the Whenua Rahui classification over 256 hectares of the Lake Rotomā Scenic Reserve, which provides for the Crown to acknowledge Ngati Makino values in relation to the area. I think, taking on from earlier speakers, it is intrinsic in the sense of the cultural inheritance and their whakapapa. They can never be put asunder by any deed or charter of the Crown. What can be recognised no differently to the different parishes in this country who tend to serve one person, and the other organisations, Pākehā, that seem to be differing in their views, but certainly get to a collective point at time moving against Māori. And that's what they need to be recognised for. They have more than pulled themselves together, as I heard one person try to say the other week. There's never ever been a problem about them being who they were. It is about the perception of those people who have worked with them. And this is in iwi who have stood the test of time, who have decided to go to where they've gone to. In the sense of McCausland and the neighbours and Whanaunga, it is interesting that they started off, there was a dual approach to getting towards where they got to today, but they had different timelines and separate journeys, and they chose to do that. We can cite the quantums, as Minister Turi has spoke about, the money, and at the end of the day it's there, and they'll manage it well. They're pretty good at that. But in relation to the classifications and the jurisdiction that DOC has, Minister, and I see that they have the authority again to allow easements or whatever else. Very interesting, Minister. Here we go again. So I want to, again, Minister, say that all these ministry thank yous and activities that you promised that they will enact with the iwi, that you keep your finger on them. Because, you know, there's a bit of a history developing of these tari, these ministries saying, we're going to do this, we wrote it in the charter, here we go. So again, I respectfully suggest, Minister, you keep an eye on them. If you're too busy, you get Minister Turio or somebody else, or me to watch them. And I'll tell you, I'll keep an eye on them. Because seriously, it is something that our people need. It is something that they need. Let's not just be hodgepodge as it was in 1863 and 1853 and let it just drift off. So again, Minister, I won't ask you to increase the quantum this time. I'll ask you to make sure they do the job. And that's really important. Because I've been around long enough to hear people say, yep, we're going to do this. And then they're talking about a green bike and they end up with a broken down horse. So in relation to that, I want to commend the Minister for getting through this thing. The purchase of the balance of the Roto Ehu West Crown Forest licence land will provide for the transfer of approximately 9.9 million in accumulated rentals to the Ngati Makino Heritage Trust. That's really great, and it's great that hopefully, as the Speaker understands, the Chair, that the interest will be going with the money. Kia ora, Minister, you can look up now. But look, those old people need to be really commended for this effort, and all of them who've turned up here today. Some of the faces are very familiar. They've been along the battered highway of reproach to try and ensure that they get this settlement out of the way so they create a better lot for their people. You know, the chair of the Māori Select Committee, I want to commend him for his efforts. I feel sorry for him because he's gone back smoking. But and I want to mihi to him, but I want to mihi to him, Mr. Speaker. I want to mihi to him because he really puts the effort in and makes sure we toe the line to get this stuff through. And I want to mihi to the chair of the Māori Select Committee. We are overworked, but like you said, it's like being in the All Blacks, being on the Māori Affairs Select Committee. Not like the Warriors, but we won't. So I want to recognise the chair of the Māori Affairs Select Committee and all the other members who are there who have helped us get to here. That he's got a bit of publicity today is another issue, because he's a great bloke, and I won't get into his point of difference with who he's been disagreeing with. But I know he agrees today about how great this settlement is for the Makino people. No reira te rano, te whakaara I rochi a, ia koutou e kahana I te whakatū mana tō whakapapa e mihi kahana. Aha kua ngā piki ngā heke. E pai ana te ora, te whana a kuni e puta ana mo te pai o te rangatahi. No reira ia koutou katoa, ngā rangatira, ngā karaua kuia te rangatahi pēr o Ngati Makino e mihi kahana. Kia pai te hoki I te kāinga, ki te wāhi pai e mohi atu koutou. Tēnā koutou katoa.